before he delivered the first commandment, Yah preceded it with these words. And Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I am Yah, your Elohim, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. With that, we get an introduction into the character of the one we are to worship. First and foremost, he is an Elohim of deliverance, of redemption, of salvation. He made himself known to the children of Israel by freeing them from captivity, and that is the business he has been in. So, loving Yah with all our heart and soul and mind and strength starts with placing no one before Yah. It means having no one of greater importance in our lives, not parents or children or spouses, etc. Yeshua himself said, he that loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he that loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. One simple yet overlooked instruction is found in the book of Proverbs. In chapter 3, verse 6, we read, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. In all your ways, meaning in everything you do, acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. If we wake up in the morning and do not speak to him first, we have failed in this objective. If something is done to our benefit and he is not the first one we thank, we have failed in this objective.
Welcome to Children of Yah, a Bible teaching series for children where I'll be posting videos on YouTube teaching and telling about the Most High and His Word, the true Word. Episode 1 is entitled The First Commandment. Let's get started with today's lesson. Open up your Bibles to Exodus chapter 20, verses 2 and 3. I'll give you a second to find it. Okay, Exodus chapter 20, verses 2 and 3 says, I am Yah, your father, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. That means you can't worship any other gods, because not only is Yah first, but He's the only power that we serve. If you were to worship other gods, you'll be putting other gods in His face. If you don't know exactly what a god is, then let me explain. Basically, a god is anything that you worship. Anything could be a god to you. For example, celebrating holidays, birthdays, or giving any more attention to anything over Yah. To make this clear, if you don't understand, let me give you an example. Say you just got up morning sometime after 9, and you want to eat breakfast, or you want to play with your toys. What if you're going to bed? Before you do any of that, you must do your prayer to Yah and read His Word, because like I said, Yah comes first, always first. I know you probably think that we don't have to worry about that, but you better think again. We need to do that every morning and night, because Yah should be the first thing that pops up into your head in the morning when you get up, and the last thing when you go to bed. By doing that, you're showing Yah that you know that He's first in your life. To help you better understand what I'm saying, we are going to listen to a brief audio clip to show what I mean on the first commandment, and we'll be right back.
You shall have no other gods before me. Well, that's easy enough, right? You've probably never said a prayer to Zeus or Ra or Odin. How can you put other gods first when you don't even believe in other gods? Except, what is a god exactly? Well, in the simplest terms, a god is anything or anyone we worship. It's not as common today for people to bow down before false gods of the sun or of the rain, of the earth, of the sky. Oh, the modern world has long since traded out those old gods for a newer, shinier pantheon. False gods of money, of entertainment, technology, even of self. Now, the tricky part is that most of these things aren't wrong on their own. There's nothing intrinsically bad about entertainment or technology or what have you. Now, the problem comes when we make these things gods, when we make them the most important things in our lives, because then we've created a hierarchy. We've said, God, you're important, but this thing or this person is more important. And make no mistake, when the time comes to choose between serving your God and the God, you're going to choose whichever is more important to you. And then what happens to the 10 Commandments? Well, they become the 10 suggestions, the 10 good ideas, the 10 things I'd like to do if this other thing wasn't so important to me. And that's when it all begins to fall apart. The 10 Commandments are backed with the divine authority of the universe's creator and sustainer. But it makes no difference unless that God becomes your God. The first commandment is God saying, look, I want you to have a rewarding life. I want it to be filled with things that make you happy. And these commandments are the key. But in order for them to work, I have to be first. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you put God first? Well, the most valuable commodity any of us has at our disposal is time. Time. It can't be bought, can't be stored up. It can only be spent. And the world is full of things for you to spend it on. The challenge you face is determining which of those things are worth it. Now, some things you can't do anything about. You have to work, you have to eat, you have to sleep. Those things are unavoidable. But what about the rest of it? Where do the rest of your hours and minutes go? Do you ever feel like you just don't have the time to spend on God? Then make time. We're all working with the same 24 hours, but obeying this commandment means making time. Time for God, time for prayer, time for Bible study, even when it's hard to do so, even when you don't think you have the time to give. Now, the 10 Commandments can guide you toward a fulfilling life, but not if you ignore the very first one.
Okay, and we're back. So, did you hear what he said? He said that if you want to make time for Yah, you can use it now. Every day, we get 24 hours to spend on time. Use the spare time right now to read and study the Bible every day, especially on the Sabbath day, which is his set-apart day of worship, from Friday night to Saturday night. Remember, kids, you are one of Yah's unique creations, and he loves you very much. Never forget to put Yah first. This is Children of Yah signing off. Thank you for listening. Shabbat Shalom.
This is our ultimate test, not worshiping others in the slightest or placing them at a higher position of importance in our lives. And this includes the devil, living or deceased people, and even ourselves. For we are to worship Yah, our Elohim, in all things, and serve only Him. He should be the highest priority in our lives, and He should be the first one we thank, praise, and turn to for everything we need and want in life. This is truly what it means to have no other deities before Him.